According to change.gov in an article entitled The Obama Plan, they say on healthcare reform, quote, on healthcare reform, the American people are too often offered two extremes: government-run healthcare with higher taxes or letting the insurance companies operate without rules, end quote. As a nation, we have been unified on many topics, as well as a nation equally divided by many of the same topics. Healthcare is one of those topics in which almost everyone agrees someone needs to do something to change how healthcare is run and operated. At the same time, everyone has a different idea on how it should be run and by whom. As a person who has to struggle every day with diabetes, a disease that I'll have for my lifetime, I see how important healthcare is to me and my family. At the same time, it is my right and choice to choose my coverage, not my government's. You have heard something of healthcare. Let's talk about some of the problems. Healthcare is a widespread problem throughout the entire nation. Everyone wants to have healthcare, but no one wants to pay for it. According to the Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation, in an article entitled Health Policy Explained, found on the kaisered.org website, they say, quote, in 2008, U.S. healthcare spending was about $7,681 per resident and accounted for 16.2% of the nation's gross domestic product. This amount is the highest of all industrialized countries, end quote. This is an amazing amount of money when there are approximately 3 million people. According to the Congressional Budget Office in an article entitled Long-Term Outlook for Healthcare Spending, found on the cbo.gov website, they say, quote, the total spending on healthcare would rise from 16% gross domestic product in 2007 to 25% in 2025, 37% in 2050, and 49% in 2082. One of the main problems in the requirements that state all people have to have health care, what does the federal, state, or local governments have to tell me that I have to have insurance or that I get fined for not having it? According to the USA Today in an article entitled IRS Lacks Clout to Enforce Mandatory Health Insurance, found on the usatoday.com website, they say, quote, under the law, Americans who can afford health care insurance but refuse to buy it will face a fine of up to $695 or 2.5% of their income, whichever is higher, end quote. Now that you've heard some of the problems, here are some of the causes. Some of the reasons that healthcare is struggling is that there are too many healthcare providers who order tests and procedures that are not needed. There are too many federal, state, and private insurance organizations that all want a piece of the insurance pie. According to the healthcare.gov in an article entitled Health Insurance Exchange Establishment Grants Fact Sheet, they state, quote, the Obama administration has continued to work closely with states to implement many provisions of the Affordable Care Act. I take this to understand that the federal government will have hands-on with the state's healthcare system. Another cause of the healthcare problem is lack of healthcare competition in some areas and too much competition in others. According to the Institute for Strategy and Competitiveness, in an article entitled Identifying the Root Causes found on the HBS Education website, they say, quote, the most fundamental, unrecognized problem with the U.S. healthcare system is that competition operates at the wrong level. Competition is both too broad and too narrow. Competition is too broad because much competition now takes place at the level of health plans, networks, hospital groups, physician groups, and clinics. It should occur in addressing particular medical conditions. Competition is too narrow because it now takes place at the level of discrete interventions or services. It should take place for addressing medical conditions over the full cycle of care, including monitoring and prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and the ongoing management of the condition. Some of the causes have been presented. Here may be some solutions. According to the Physicians for Reform, real solutions for American healthcare found on the physiciansforreform.org website, they say, quote, America must move beyond partisan rhetoric and 30-second sound bites, end quote. They go on to say, we must correct the inefficiencies of our present system, not simply spend more money on a system destined to fail. One solution is a complete overhaul of the insurance companies and their tax breaks if they don't establish a real-life working costs for health coverage. A sliding scale fee based on net income is more realistic for Americans to purchase health insurance. According to the Mayo Clinic, in an article entitled A Foundation for Healthcare Reform Legislation found on the mayoclinic.org website, they say, quote, coordinate basic private insurance offerings and provide sliding scale subsidies to enable all Americans to purchase health insurance. Now that you have heard some of the arguments on health care, it is your call to action. It is up to you to decide your position on the topics and take appropriate action. Contact your local representative, your insurance carrier, or any of your federal representatives and tell them that it is your right to choose the health coverage that you want without fear of taxation or penalization from the government. Thank you.